Let me hit this live button. All right, let's go through these. Well, so what happens when there is a delay, right? Because sure, you can get discouraged in the waiting. So let's talk about the nature of time, right? How to not get discouraged in the waiting. The truth of the matter is that everything does unfold or happen instantly, but we have to walk through this third dimensional reality. And in the process of walking through it, we are always experiencing the unfolding of it within us. From an actual unfolding perspective, I will always say, I'll always go back to the story of Abdullah and Neville. All right, you're about to hear it again, all right? So the story of Abdullah and Neville is that Abdullah or Neville Goddard, right, one of the really good, really popular spiritual teachers, he coined the law of assumption. And what the law of assumption is assume that you have it. Whatever you assume, whatever assumptions that you make about the world, those assumptions must play out. So reality is simply assumptions. And man, God is imagination. So Neville had this spiritual teacher called Abdullah, and he wanted to go to Barbados. So he walked up to that teacher and he told him about, hey, I want to go to Barbados, but I don't know how I'm going to get there, yada, yada. And Abdullah gave him a spiritual masterclass by simply noticing, okay, you have a desire to get there. You do not know how to get there. We'll simply go to the end, right? He basically told him, you are in Barbados. Right? You are in Barbados. Kept it, said it just like that, and left. So what Neville did, right, because he didn't really understand at first, is he was still trying to make things happen, and nothing was moved. So then he went back to his teacher, and he told him again about all the things. Hey, I don't know what's going to happen, and I still don't have money, and yada, yada, yada. Maybe I should do this. And Abdullah said, how can you tell me how to get there when you're already there? Okay. So then Neville started just sleeping in the end, right? When he went to sleep, he was in Barbados. He allowed it to unfold. And then he had another desire because something happened. By staying in the inn, it unfolded from within him, and his brother got him a ticket. But halfway, the ticket was first class. The rest of the way, the ticket was coach. So he went to Abdullah and told him, hey, good news, I got the ticket, and but, right? And typically, we say but, all right? That denotes another desire, okay? It denotes another desire. So, but, I'm only going to be first class half of the way, but I'll be coached the rest unless somebody leaves. And so Abdullah, noticing that he had another desire, simply told him what to do in a very nice way, of course, right? He said, no, you are in Barbados and you traveled first class. Well, what are you pondering about? Okay, what are you figuring out, or what are you trying to figure out? Why I tell this story is because this story also highlights what the middle is. Okay. Many times we will go to the end and we'll give ourselves this desire. Okay, I have this. And we'll walk through the life. And as things are unfolding, we start thinking, oh, it's taking a long time. Or what do I do about this? What if I see this? What about that? What about this, right? And we start to treat the middle as if it's some, fucking kid that we don't want. Right? Some gift that somebody got you that you don't want. They gave you socks again. Your kids gave you socks again for Father's Day for the 10th year in a row. So you're acting like you like it, but you don't, right? What the middle is just an unfolding of you, right? The time of you receiving your desires is always going to be proportionate to you embodying it and granting it to yourself. One other thing that I'll notice is that when we do argue about time or we complain about time, it's typically because we have put this one desire on such a pedestal, whether we believe we need it, which in itself is a lie, because even desperation or me believing that I need something is me just making a statement that I don't believe that I have a choice. When I say I need something, it's me saying that I don't believe I have a choice not to have it. I don't believe that I have a choice that I can either have it or not, and you do. You always have a choice. You might feel like it's a life or death situation, but you get to choose where you put your focus, which then determines how your life unfolds. You always have a choice. The thought of not having a choice is an illusion, right? It is removing yourself from your God state. So when we put this one desire on such a pedestal where we can't even enjoy the rest of our life and we're like, why is this taking a long time? What's going on? Yada, yada, yada. I would ask you, are you in this to get something, or are you in this to remind yourself of who you are? Okay. And when I'm saying to get something, of course you want to manifest stuff, right? This is your nature. But are you so focused on one thing that you have completely neglected other areas of your life? Or are you creating in every area of your life? For instance, when you go to work, are you creating every day how you want your work day to be? How you want your interactions with coworkers to be? When you go see your family, are you creating how you want those interactions to be? Or are you simply spending all day focused on that one thing? And when you focus on that one thing all the time, of course it feels like lack. Of course it feels difficult, because we're starting to put that on a pedestal. Even scripture will tell us, ask without hidden motive. What does hidden motive mean? Hidden motive means I have to have this to feel better about myself. I have to have this person, this car, this thing to feel better about myself, instead of understanding the truth that I already have it. I already have it, and I have a choice to not want it. I have a choice to not get it if I don't want it anymore. That is fulfillment. Fulfillment is I get to a point where I've already given it to myself. I've already experienced it. So, I'm not going to say you won't want it, but there should be times where it's cool. It is what it is, right? So what the unfolding is, it's the unfolding of that desire from within you through linear time. And so as this thing unfolds, you already have it, right? You're in the end, you already have it. So as this unfolds, you're going to walk through life and you're going to be confronted with different beliefs about that thing. Your doubts are going to come up. This is an opportunity for you to silence them. If you don't silence them right, they show up again. All right? If you don't silence them then, they show up again. So there are always going to be these opportunities, right, for you to walk into a better version of yourself on the path to get there. Okay? And then finally, stop reacting to the middle like it's the end. Stop. I'm not saying that you are, okay? But that is the other point that I would make on this whole time thing, is stop reacting to the middle. We should be using every opportunity on the unfolding to give us proof that we're on the right path, whether it looks right or not. It's the old me fading away. Anything that looks wrong is the old me fading away. Anything that looks right, cool, is unfolding. But really, all of it is unfolding for me. All of it. Okay. In this battle, where should I wait for God to take care of things, or be proactive and ask? My whole life I had goals and asked and such, but lately, what if I'm not where I have to be? What is my gift? This is more to this, but it's the best way I could ask my question. I don't know what's right or wrong anymore. Are you talking about asking other people, or are you talking about asking Source? Are you talking about asking other people for help? Or are you talking about asking God within you for help? I don't know. Damn, I'm losing track of everything. My bad. What if the thing I follow is not for me? Okay. I gotcha. All right, so maybe you have a bigger and better blessing out there for you. You're so focused on what you want that you miss it. This is a natural part of expansion, right? This is a natural part of growth. Is that you get to this point where, yes, you have these desires, but because you are an infinite being and you're constantly expanding, those desires are going to evolve. Desires evolve into more desires, right? It's not an excuse to go cheat on whoever you're with, by the way, right? What I'm saying is you're going to have a desire, okay, I'm going to open this business. And by the time you get to the point where it's open, you'll have more desires for how you want to do things within that business. And then it might branch off into something else. Then you might shut that down and go down another path, right? Your desires always lead you down the path of self-discovery. That's all it is, right? Simply, all you really are need to do in your life is trust the path that you are already on. Trust the path that you're on, right? And when I say follow your desires, follow your passions, I'm not saying follow your feelings. I'm not saying to walk around like a degenerate and simply chase happiness around. What I am saying is that you have certain desires in your heart. And those desires lead you to situations. Then those situations allow you to expand those desires. So you should constantly be in the end of a new desire all the time. This is the nature of your being. This is the nature of who you are, right? If I get to the point where I want something, and then I say, you know what, maybe I don't want something. Maybe I don't want that specific thing. Maybe I just want a relationship that is like this overall. Let's use relationships for an example. You want this one person. You get down this path of thinking from the end. You're like, you know what? I did like parts of that. But because you have gotten to the point where now you're starting to feel fulfilled, right? As I constantly mention, so many people that I speak to on this journey, right? They come to me in the beginning, it's about a specific person. By the time we finish a couple of weeks, they don't want that person anymore. And all of a sudden, that person shows up and they're like, you know what? I want better. And now they're with somebody who they align with better, who is better for them. What I'm trying to say is, in the process of granting yourself the desires of your heart internally, right? As you receive them, you're going to start getting more clarity. Typically, when we're thinking about things from lack, right, it's very difficult to expand. We get very hyper fixated because if I have this, then I'll feel complete. If I have this, then I'll feel better about myself. If I have this, then I won't feel betrayed and lonely. Okay. But once you start looking at things from this abundance mindset, I have everything, you'll start seeing that a lot of your desires will start to evolve. They will start to evolve. There is no separation between your desires and the desires, your desires and the desires of the source within you. There's no separation. This is even a vain human judgment to think that we can say, you should only have desires that are righteous. What does that mean? This is a human thing. This is a human construct. The idea of judgment is a human thing. We are the ones who judge right and wrong, who say, oh, this is good, this is bad, based on our fixed definition of morality. Creation just creates. Creation uses anything to create. Creation only sees wholeness. It only sees the full picture. Creation, reality, God, source, sees every possibility already done, every path already done. Creation is done. But because we see such a small part of the path, we are the ones who judge it as positive and negative. We are the ones that say, why does God do bad things to people if God is all good? Because God is all good, but there's light and dark. Everything is done. Every possible combination is done, and we have the free will to move accordingly. Right? So, to end that, I'll say, it's not that you have to differentiate between, your desires and source's desires. They're all source's desires for you. They're all source's desires for you. And then when to know when to take inspired action. Whenever you are in alignment. If you are in alignment and you are walking with the knowing that you already have things, whatever you do comes as inspired action. When you are striving and you're in a place of lack, everything is a move of desperation. Remember, it's only inspired action. It's only this divine action because you are divine. You are the one who makes divinity. You are the one who makes all these things divine. What determines if something is divine timing or not? It's you. It's because you are the divine in the divine timing. So whenever I know that I have something, whenever I know that I'm whole and I'm sourced and everything is unfolding perfectly from within me, then every action I take is inspired action. This is why people will ask that common question, well, what do I do if I see an unfavorable situation in front of me? What do I do if I see an unfavorable situation in front of me? I'll say, you already have it. What does it matter what you do right now? If you already have it, what does it matter? Whenever we think we don't already have something, all of our actions become conditional. So they can't be inspired action. Meaning, if I'm trying to get some money and I see an unfavorable situation and I say, what do I have to do to get it? How do I have to act in this unfavorable situation? What I am actually saying is that I have to conditionally be a certain way in this situation to get something. And then what determines if we did it right or not is our judgment afterwards. And because we are such judgmental creatures, just naturally, what we'll do is we'll get out of that and we'll be like, oh, I don't know if I did it right. Just knocking ourselves out of alignment. Instead, know the truth. You already are in the end. It don't matter what you do. You already have it. This is just a perfect unfolding to get you to what you want. There are infinite paths to get you to what you want. The paths are created because you stay in the end. Right? Walking the path the right way doesn't get you to the destination. Staying in the destination gets you down the path no matter which path you take. So inspired action is simply you knowing that you already have something. You knowing that you are source, that you are the breath of God. That you are the intersection between divinity and identity. You are the Word made flesh. You are man. You are God made incarnate. That is what makes it inspired action. Go to the end and then know it doesn't matter what I do. I simply make the best choice from every single perspective. Beautiful. Beautiful. I love to see that. I love to see that. I love to see that. You just made the day a lot better, right? But go to the end and then know that no matter what I do, it's all working out for me. If it looks unideal, don't care. Any change is proof that it's all changing for me. If it looks good, cool. All proof that it's all working out for me. But no, we don't accept great value versions of our desires. You don't accept anything less than what you desire. But stay in the end. Go to the end and sit there. Stay there. Be there. Okay? If you feel that doubt creep up and you need to give it to yourself in imagination. Remind yourself that you already have it in imagination. Because I go in imagination, I go within the temple of God and I pray and I give it to myself right now. And then I go about my business in reality and allow it to continue unfolding perfectly. Okay? I know. Your message chopped up, man. You get a sentence here, a sentence there. How do angels communicate? That's a nuanced question, right? So it's going to be specific to you. So let's talk about this from different angles. Understand what an angel is, right? An angel is simply an aspect of the whole, right? You think of source as light in general, just a being of light, a perfect being of infinite light, all that there is. And these angels kind of are angles of light within the whole. They're still the whole, but they're fragments or aspects of the whole. Now, the purpose of angels, because remember, everything is within you. The purpose of angels is to call you higher, to a higher knowing of yourself. Typically, if you read scripture or spiritual text, angels show up to give warnings. They show up to give messages. They show up to give declarations or whatever the case may be. But they don't necessarily always show up with trumpets blasting, okay? How do angels show up? Well, one of the ways that your spirit guides speak to you, because you have such free will and you are allowed so much dominion in this reality, is that a lot of times your angels aren't going to come down and hit you over the head with a frying pan to get your attention. They'll use things that are already in your reality. So you might have like an urge to, while you're driving, to look a certain way, and what you've been affirming is simply written on a billboard. Or you've been pondering something and then you hear a song that says something and you become conscious, right? Something urges you to become conscious, and you become conscious. You hear a message in a song, and it reminds you of something, and you just feel seen a little bit, right? Or they might show up through numbers if that's what you are looking for. But instead, what I always challenge y'all is, instead of seeing those numbers and then starting to try to, Google them and be like, okay, what does this mean? To give it your own meaning. That is how you can begin to create more intimacy with those guides within you, right? It's when you give it its own meaning, right? Now, all of a sudden, y'all have an open communication. You have an open communication instead of you get this thing and you have to Google, and you can Google 333 and get 18 different things on which one it means. What does it mean, right? It'll give you 18 paragraph description of it means this, but it could mean this, 333. And it's like, oh shit, okay. Which part? And then we focus on the part we want. Instead, start assigning meaning to these things, right? When I see this, this is what my spirit is telling me. This is what my guides and my angels are telling me. And this could be very helpful. This can really start to open up communication between you and the God within you, all right? So you can get a lot better communication. But remember, angels, your guides, your ancestors, whatever you want to call them, the higher self, source within you, all the same, just different words that we use to explain different fragments of the whole. It's like the subconscious, superconscious, the unconscious, the conscious mind. It's all one mind. It's all the same. We just use different terminology to talk about the wholeness from a human perspective, because we like to grant things attributes. So I would highly recommend that, right? The next time you see something, grant or give it meaning, or start making up meanings and giving that to yourself. That way, when you start seeing those things, you already know what they mean, and you get that open dialogue to where you understand now that you're never alone. And then also a reminder, anytime that you even have an inkling that it is your guide talking to you, that's what it is. That it's an angel talking to you, that's what it is. Right? And then because we had the conversation recently even about demons, remember, everything is within you. The first illusion is believing that things are externalized, right? When you externalize the concept of an angel and a demon, it's very difficult for you to perceive that everything's for you. How could this be for me if this is a good being and this is a being that's evil? And also remember that just because a being is a being of light does not necessarily mean that it's like a benevolent being, right? Even Lucifer is known to be a being of light, right? Not saying that Lucifer is a bad thing, right? Because we also know, might be going down a rabbit hole right here with this, but if you even look it up, one of the things that Jesus says in one of the lost gospels is, I was the one who gave Adam and Eve the fruit. Go and go down that rabbit hole if you want, right? But very, very interesting things, right? What is good and evil but a construct in our mind? But also, demons, right, comes from the Greek word daemon, which actually means spirit guide, right? So an aspect of these demons, these cast out feelings within us, the same way that Satan was quote unquote cast out of heaven, is the way that we cast out our negative feelings, our jealousy. We don't want to identify with that. We just call them bad and cast them out. This is the same way that Satan was cast out of heaven. I wonder what the parallel is there, right? It's all happening within you. So these things are spirit guides, meaning they're meant to call you within yourself. They're meant to call you to places that you need to heal. Right? So you have jealousy. Why do you have this? What is it trying to show you? Do you believe that you can't get that? Well, that would mean that the God within you cannot grant you the desires of your heart. So instead of looking at that jealousy from a negative perspective, actually bring it, invite it within you. Invite it within you so that it can help you grow. And yes, these are all saved on YouTube. All of the videos saved on YouTube. So you can always go back and check them out. My bad, y'all. I sent my measurements out today to get some clothes. And now I gotta verify something. Cool. be my long lost twin, man. We might really be brothers for real. I'm glad that it's clicking. What other questions y'all got? So sin comes into play because the spiritual definition of sin is going to be to miss the mark, right? It's going to be to miss the mark. So when we think of sin from a modern perspective, from a Western perspective, or from a religious or political perspective, we think of it in terms of a moral construct that's created by humans, by society. Right, so different parts of the world believe that certain things are right and wrong, and other parts of the world might believe a little differently. So morality, the concept of sin to humans, is always going to be skewed, right? Even when we know that the Bible was rewritten and it was edited to align with Roman law, there are certain things that are in there that are aligned with Roman law. If you really even look at or study kind of Western civilization, a lot of the things that we consider to be quote unquote justice sound like the Bible, right? Like we believe in extreme punishment without reform, right? Like our system, we don't have a system of reform in the Western world, right? It's simply throw you up under the jail, right? The same way that Scripture talks about this scary, spooky place called hell, that you are tormented and tortured for eternity if you do wrong and sin, okay? But what sin is from a spiritual perspective is that even Scripture will tell you, judge righteously. Do not judge based on appearances, but judge righteously, right? So as you're going through life, you'll have these desires, and these desires are giving you insight into who you are. And whenever I miss the mark or I sin against myself, I'm sinning against that desire. So let me give an example, right? If I know that I want prosperity in my life, okay? Maybe I have been feeling deep down this urge to do what I need to do, because even if I need prosperity or want prosperity, I know what I should do next, even if what I should do next, because we're supposed to just be following our guidance, our inner guidance system. Even if I know what I need to do next is simply research new ways to make money, right? Every time I'm prolonging that or procrastinating on that or casting that aside, I'm sinning against myself. Anytime that I'm not seeing myself as source, right? I'm using God's name in vain, meaning I'm calling myself a loser, or I'm identifying with lack. I'm identifying with something that's not divine, that's not of God. Well, then I'm sinning against myself. So the sin is always going to be about you. It's always going to be about you, how you are relating to yourself, how you are treating yourself, especially when it comes in relation to the things that you actually desire and what you are moving towards in your life. So, because even if we think of sin from a biblical perspective, right, we went through the 10 Commandments the other day, and one of the 10 Commandments is what? It's honor your father and mother, right? But we talked about that from a very metaphysical sense, where the honoring your father and mother is actually talking about your conscious and your masculine mind. Like, how do you honor those things? Right? Because we also see thou shalt not kill, right? But if somebody walks in your house right now and they try to kill you, what would be the right thing to do? Just sit back and allow them to kill you and then allow your family to survive however the hell they do? Or would it be to take care of business, right? So you can still provide a good life to your loved ones. What would it be? Right? So we know that a lot of these things, right, if we just judge, quote unquote, morality, or we judge sin based on, if we base sin based on just the morality of the world, well, shit, we're going to be in trouble. We're going to be in trouble. Yeah, exactly. The more that we sin against ourselves, we are the ones that are creating that reality on earth. And so my take on dreams coming true, once I had a precognitive dream once. So Yes, they do. And, everything that you do, everything is within you. You're always getting glimpses of other realities or infinite different realities. But we've been meant or we've been taught to demonize our own imagination and to, I think they call it when you're a kid, they say, don't daydream. And your mind's always in the clouds, right? And it's pushed on us until we truly believe that our imagination isn't real. And by the time we get into this space, it's almost like we have to retrain ourselves to remind ourselves that our imagination is real. The only reason that your dreams aren't coming true or are coming true is because you believe in them, right? If you wake up and say it's just a dream, guess what? It's just a dream because you are the one who decrees that. The moment that you begin to take your imagination seriously, you begin to take your inner world, the temple of the Holy Spirit, seriously. And you start to pull in, right, different knowledge from your dreams and all these things. That's the moment that they all become more real, right? What's up, Miss Serena? Okay. So it's always about us. It is always about us. It is always about us. And so even touching back on that, right? When we sin against ourselves, we are constantly creating hell on earth, right? Here's another way to look at it. A lot of spiritual texts, they consider the earth to be, we consider the earth, we call the earth the 3D, right? The third dimension. In some spiritual texts, earth is seen as hell. Now, what hell also represents from a spiritual sense is being trapped in your lower three energy centers. The lower three energy centers being the root center, which is kind of underneath your sexual organs, your sacral center, which is around your sexual organs, and then your root center, or your solar plexus, which is your gut. When you are stuck in these lower three energy centers, what we call that is hell. Why? Well, why it's called hell also is because you have three lower energy centers. The 3D is considered hell. If those energy centers are in balance and I'm stuck in any one of them, if I'm stuck in my solar plexus, then I'm stuck on programming, right? One of the purposes of the solar plexus is to burn fat, right? You have fat in your body and your fat it stores toxins to keep them from getting in your bloodstream. But another purpose of it is it also stores information. It stores programming, patterns, right? So if you have an imbalanced solar plexus, it's going to be very difficult for you to determine the difference between your intuition and programming. This is why people will get into relationships, and what will they say? They'll say, I just knew it was my intuition, when really it was their delusion from past situations that they pulled into the present moment, and it manifested in this situation. Right? It was their delusion that created this situation. So if you are stuck in your energy, your solar plexus, your intuition is going to be off. Now, what would I do if I wanted to throw your solar plexus off? I'd put shit in all the food. As we see, it's happening, right? I put shit in the food, I put shit in the water to throw your solar plexus off. Now, your sacral, which is your creative center. It's also your sexual energy. It's also lust. If you are trapped in that lower nature operating purely off of lust, you're going to create a hell on earth, right? How many people do we know or do we see throw away their relationships, throw away their family, throw away their job or their position from lust, right? Purely from lust. So there we go. There's another one. And then also, if I'm not actually able to utilize that energy, I deny myself the ability to really create a beautiful life. Because even if you notice, a lot of very highly successful men even are highly sexed men. This is even what Napoleon Hill said when we talked about transmutation of sexual energy. Men will go down this path of becoming extremely successful because they've channeled their sexual energy, or because maybe they're doing it in order to get more women. Either way, it's an act of sexual energy. And then your root center, the third center, is you don't feel safe. Right? Let's say you don't feel safe because you can't pay the bills. You don't feel safe with your identity. You're not grounded. You're overly anxious, right? Well, that's the purpose of the media, of the news, of social media. Everybody comparing themselves to, you get a little snippet of somebody's life and you think you're behind when really, they're struggling and they're just posting a highlight reel, right? So if I don't feel safe and comfortable within myself, if I get trapped in these lower three energy centers, it is considered hell. It is considered hell, right? And that's why the heart center is then what? The seat of the soul, right? When you open that heart center, it allows you to live in the upper energy centers, which is considered heaven. So when you're living in the upper energy centers, if you're living in your heart space, you're living off of righteousness. A lot of people think the heart center is affiliated with feeling good, being happy, gratitude for all, right? But it's more in line with actually righteousness and integrity. But what is righteousness? Even scripture says, judge not by appearance, judge righteously. Righteously has to be in alignment with here, with my inner vision of what I want. That is what righteous is, seeing myself as ideal, as God, seeing others as God, as ideal, seeing the circumstances as all working out for me. I'm walking through life with an open heart center in righteousness, doing the right thing. My throat center is open. If I'm speaking with an open heart center based on righteousness, now I'm speaking law. My words become law. And then my inner vision, the third eye, when that is connected, right, I see beauty, right? My thoughts, my inner vision dictates my internal mood. My inner vision becomes law. And then, of course, the crown center, which is kind of your higher self. It's in tone with your spiritual gifts, clairvoyance, clairsentience, all those things, right? But the most important thing to know is if you're operating from these three, the third eye, or your inner imagination, your throat center, your heart center, you're gonna be cool. If you're operating on those lower three energy centers, they're unbalanced, they're off, you're not taking care of your sexual health, right? Your root center is unbalanced, you don't feel safe in your life, right? Like, it's very difficult to tell somebody to create a beautiful life when they don't feel safe. They're just constantly in the news, right? Oh my, there's wars going on across the country, across the world, and I'm uptight about it. It's very difficult to, if you feel unsafe, if you're always in survival mode, to get into creative. So a lot of the world is meant to keep you in survival mode. A lot of the world is meant to keep you in a very unbalanced sexual state. That's why everything looks like, the corn sites. Everything looks like pornography these days. Why is that? Because if you deplete people of their sexual energy, you make them slaves, right? This is the closest that you can come to addiction this is the most addictive thing without putting a foreign substance in your body that you can experience in this life is sex. Like, many people walk around, they're slaves to sex, right? They work what they work because of sex. They go the places they go because of sex. They purely are thinking they're purely moving based on wanting to get sex. Their relationships are purely transactional when it comes to sex. If I do a good job, I'll get some sex. If I don't, I won't get some sex. So I better be on my best behavior, right? This is a very sad way to live. Very sad, disempowered way to live, right? And then if my root center is off, or if my solar plexus is off and I'm a slave to food, I can't even control what I put in my mouth. I can't control what I put in the temple of God, in the temple of the Holy Spirit, right? Well, now I have all kinds of other problems, right? How can I truly see myself as the holy church of God, as the temple of God that I am, if I'm struggling in these areas, all right? So all of these things are very difficult to overcome by design. It's all by design. It's all by design. How do you know if your heart's center are? So, that's a great question. And I don't even think, let's not worry. I don't even think that's the right question. Wondering, how do we know it's open or not? It's simply better to know its function and then go do things that align with that function, right? We did a whole discussion on the energy centers, and let me see if I can pull up that document. We did a whole discussion on the energy centers, all 7 of them, affirmations for each of them, and then how to balance them. But the core point that I continue to go through in that was, I got hella documents on here. I'm not gonna find it. All right. The main thing that we continue to go through in that was, it's purely if you want your open heart center, you are walking in righteousness. You are telling the story of what you want, no matter how you see. You are deciding to walk in righteousness. You're not judging by appearances. You're not allowing your feelings to dictate the story that you tell. You're keeping your heart center open, no matter how you feel. You're feeling yourself. You're feeling these things to the fullest. My bad. I'm stumbling all over my words right now. we're feeling things to the fullest, but we are still being righteous and walking with integrity, doing the right things, saying the right things. That's basically how you know your heart center is open. Don't overly, make it complex, thinking that you have to have some feeling and rays of light shooting out of you. Maybe, you can have mystical experiences with your energy centers, with your chakras, but to be straightforward with you, you're moving based on righteousness, your heart center is open. Okay, what else? I appreciate you too. So we never actually know when someone's the one. I mean, what does the one mean? Who makes the decision that someone is the one? You're the one who makes that decision, right? Like what is knowing that someone is the one? That's a declaration. That's a thou shalt decree a thing and it shall be. You are the one who make the determination if somebody is the one or not. That's all you. That's all your assumption. That's pure law of assumption. That's pure manifesting right there. Right? I can even go take it a step further. How many people walk around and are like, well, they're the one, but they just, for some reason, they just don't want me, or they are with somebody else, or I know this is the one for me, but that they make another assumption of how that other person feels. Like, you don't know how that person feels. That's not how they feel. That's how you feel. That's not how they feel. That's how you feel. That actually should be a very profound thing to realize. When we're telling stories about these other people, you're not telling the story of how they feel. You're telling it how you feel. And now you are creating law to where they must abide by that feeling. Do you get that? Do you see that? You're always telling the story of how you feel. You're never telling the story about how somebody else feels. You're never telling the story about how someone else feels about you. You're always telling the story about how you feel that they feel about you. It's all about you. Okay, yeah. Talk more about imagination and how we are being kept in a box and stuck. Well, you're not in a box anymore. You are not in a box. You can never be in a box anymore. You're not going back to the box. The box is done. It's destroyed. You already put it on the corner. The garbage man is coming to pick it up. Right? So how does this reality, I guess, keep us stuck? Okay? In lots of ways. We were just talking about the energy centers. Some of the ways that your mind can get stuck is in fear. One thing to note about fear is a terrible teacher. If someone is trying to teach me something through fear, I should always question it. I should always, right? If your main reason for you wanting me to do something is you trying to tell a scary story of what will happen if I don't do it, nah, I don't buy that, right? Fear is when, parents snap at their kid and they tell them to do something because this is going to happen if they don't. They don't want you to be open-minded about it. They just want you to stop doing the shit that you're doing. Right? When the world is telling you how everything is going to go to shit if this person's elected or that happens or this, if it's pure fear, it's typically a terrible teacher. If you don't do this, you're going to go to hell for infinity. That's typically a very terrible teacher. Okay? So one of the things that the world uses is fear. People are constantly in a state of fear. People are in a state of fear all the time about the economy, about world events, about what's going on in this region or with these companies or whatever the case may be, how these types of people are on the loose and watch out. And we're constantly being fed fear. Constantly being fed fear. So that's one way that people control you. Another way is they keep you stuck in lower states of consciousness, in repetitive cycles. anyone who has went down a path of sexual discipline, um, and you never really notice how difficult it is to break that pattern until you do it, is you understand the hold that sex can have on everybody. You know, lust plays a huge role in a lot of people's life. Now, I'm not demonizing lust, because where is the line that we draw? If you meet a beautiful woman, or ladies, you meet a beautiful man, where is the line being drawn between lust and love? There will always be some sense of love, lust, and wanting to be intimate with that person. But when I'm someone who needs my sexual desires to be satisfied as some kind of reward or some kind of validation, if I'm someone that cannot turn off the explicit sites, cannot go without pleasuring myself, it's damn near a habit, right? It'll be very easy for me to be controlled. It'll be very easy for me to always be spilling out my energy. And that's going to be another lower state of consciousness. Another way is food, right? We know that food has a lot of chemicals. If my body, this temple of the Most High, right, if it operates the best on a very clean diet, if it operates the best when it's operating in a state of, let's say, ketosis, or it's running off of a certain energy source, or when you're lighter or healthier, then obviously the processed foods are going to slow down my cognitive function. They're going to keep me from tapping in fully. All the chemicals and things, they're going to throw off hormones, right? I'll have hormone imbalances. Hormones, sometimes we believe that these processes are put in our body for no reason. Like, even when you think of the concept of wisdom teeth, it's like, do we really think that God just put these teeth in our body for no reason except to get them pulled at some, or just get your tonsils taken out for no reason, right? Like, God just put extra things in our body for no reason, right? Everything does serve a purpose, a function. But when our body is out of whack, okay, because things just taste good, right? That's why these foods are highly addictive. They're beyond the level of sweetness that we even should experience. All this sugar and shit, causing mucus buildup and pulling us out of our consciousness. All of these things are ways that we are controlled. They are ways that we are controlled. So I'm not saying that we cut everything out, right? I ain't cutting sex out completely, right? And even certain foods, right? It's still, even if you grow your own, you still have to be worried about the soil. You still have to be worried about so many things. So how often are you fasting, trying to clean out your body, keeping it as well kept as possible, working out, right? How often are you meditating to feel safe? How often are you, trying to affirm or make sure that you're implanting new mindsets? And how often are you turning off the TV from time to time, right? So all of these things matter. It's not that I'm telling you to live a life of seclusion, like a little hermit in the woods. I'm telling you to engage with the world fully, engage in your humanity fully. You came down here to experience it all, but also notice that anything that is overindulged in can be, detrimental. Anything. When did you know you are AM? What does AM stand for? A man? A manifester? A masculine? I know it doesn't mean morning. I feel like I should know what that means, but I don't. Oh, I am. Okay. My bad. I just had a complete blank brain fart. My bad. When did you know that I am? It was when I was an adult, for sure. Definitely an adult. I went down the path of actually becoming very, very intrigued with the law of assumption and using it to get out of situations in my life before I really came into the full knowing of that I am awareness in totality, right? And even now I'm still pushing forward and learning more daily. We're all expanding daily as well. So as an adult, for sure, definitely as an adult, I think I always knew that I created everything in a sense, but it was difficult for me to really step in that knowing because of the things that were also transpiring in my life, right? When your life doesn't look good to you, it takes a lot of accountability to be like, all right, I did create the bullshit. Okay? And so that's another way that the world gets you, is that when you're so deeply programmed and you look around and you see wars and you see poverty and you see lack and you see loss and you see betrayal and you say this and this and this and this and this and this and this, and then somebody comes up to you and said, do you know that you created your reality? You say, oh, no way. No way. But it does take, a special type of person to step in this space. So I'm always so grateful to have y'all on here, right? Because it does take special people to come into that awareness of self, and then not only come into that awareness and run from it, but embrace it, and then use it not only to make their life better, but to make the life of their loved ones better. So that's a side note. I always got to give y'all some flowers from time to time. But I think myself, as we all are, I'm still coming into that I am awareness more and more every day. Right? More and more every day. To where it's a solid knowing of mine, but based on what I see every day, what I see unfold in my life every day, that knowing simply gets stronger and stronger, and I get it with more conviction, and everything just continues to show me in different ways. Even the conversations that I have with y'all, right? The conversations that I have with y'all are always expansive as well, because we all bring these new perspectives. So as I'm keeping this heightened perspective of y'all, and helping, trying to guide you through some maybe blind spots that you have, it's also giving me more insight in general, right? So everything continues to expand my awareness of who I am. Everything. So the knowing of like the I am that I am source, I would say it's been a core part of my identity for some years, definitely for some years. But when did I actually embody it seriously and start living through it? I'd say 3-4 years, about 3-4 years. Right. I am gratitude. I am blessed. I am perfection. I am whole. I am divinity. I'm all that there is. My word is law. I am the miracle. I am the divine unfolding. I am the house of God. I am the word made manifest, the word made flesh. I am all that there is. There is no other. I am the only creator in my reality. You are the only creator in your reality. Right? What else y'all got? Not gonna lie. I am looking forward to going to sleep tonight. So if that's it, I'll probably wrap this up right now, man. Matter of fact, I am going to wrap it up right now. I appreciate y'all's time as always. I always appreciate these discussions. I appreciate the perspectives. I appreciate the expansion. I appreciate, the pushback, the ask or the questions for clarity. Because we're all expanding together. We're all getting more clarity together. And iron sharpens iron, right? The more that, y'all ask questions and challenge things and offer new ways of looking at things, the more that we all see things differently, okay? You are all prosperous. You are all perfect. You are all divine. You are all whole. You are all loved. Everything that you desire, you are already worthy for it. You could never be anything less, no matter how you feel. No matter how you feel, no matter what you see, you are all that there is, and it's all unfolding from within you right now. Every moment is getting you closer to that promised land. If you don't feel that way, it's cool, because I see you as that way anyway, so I know it must be true. Remember, I am that I am, no matter what. No matter what. All right, y'all have a blessed, beautiful evening. I'll probably be on here tomorrow, depending on how the markets go. It's Monday. Don't plan on being in it long, so we'll probably talk in the morning. If not, we'll talk in the evening. But until then, right? God bless. God bless. God bless the gods. All right. Peace.